You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, give thanks! It's Black Friday here in America, which isn't a thing, and it's a corporate greed structure. But anyway, Larry doesn't agree either. But you get a bonus episode for free. That's right. Buy none, because the show is free in general, and you get one free. That's how it works. I'm not doing like a dedicated holiday episode like I have done the last 6 or 7 years, but I will put up links to all the old ones so you can revisit them. Sometimes some get lost in the mix. Oh, this is Ken Reed, by the way, and you're listening to TV Guidance Counselor. I hope you're well. I hope that you guys are holding up in this horrible year that is 2020, but things are looking up, and I will be doing for my last episode of the year, last week in December, I'll be doing my year in review like I did last year because people enjoyed that. But this episode, my guest is Sean Sullivan, and if you are unfamiliar with Sean Sullivan, you should get familiar with him, as he is my muse, my inspiration behind the show, my longtime stand-up comedy friend who I've known for 20 years-ish, and in 2008, he got a spot on Comedy Central's Live at Gotham, and I didn't, even though we both drove down and got auditions, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sean is the one who told me, hey, just do this TV guide thing for your podcast. And I did it. And that's why you're listening. And I can never thank Sean enough. And every year we used to do a TV Guidance Counselor anniversary show for the first, I think, 3 or 4 years, where we would do the current week and Sean would host and I would pick, and it was fun. But he's been busy. He's got 2 kids, twins. That's a lot of kids. But anyway, Sean has been podcasting like a maniac lately. He has a podcast for, I think, the last 2 years called Two Boys in a Balcony with Bill McMorrow, who has been on the show as well. Really fun movie podcast, mostly about New England movies, but they've kind of been branching out. I did a couple episodes back in the Halloween season. We talked about Session 9, and over the summer we talked about One Crazy Summer. But Sean is rolling out a brilliant idea, and this is one of the reasons I don't feel that bad about not doing a dedicated holiday special this year, because Sean is doing a thing he's calling 25 Days of a Christmas Carol, and he's doing 25 episodes. So from December 1st to December 25th, he's doing an episode every day about a different version of A Christmas Carol. So some of them are movies, a lot of TV shows. I recorded 2 of them with him. We did Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, and we also did the famous Teddy Z, and I had remembered that the second season episode of Bonnie Hunt, Christmas episode, I thought was A Christmas Carol, but it's actually in It's a Wonderful Life, and I said, hey, this is a great opportunity, let's do an episode of my show with that and the season 1 episode of Bonnie Hunt's Life with Bonnie, and then I can tell people about your show, and you should absolutely listen to Sean's show. He has a bunch of guests aside from me, like that have been on this show, like Lamont Price and Josh Gondelman and Joe List, and I think Kelly McFarland, although I don't think he told me that, but he should have her on if he doesn't. And if he doesn't, he's a real son of a bitch. But anyway, it's a super fun show. So I'm going to put links up to all of his feeds and all that. And if you just Google Sean Sullivan 25 Days of a Christmas Carol, it'll pop up starting December 1st and you will love it. So this week, Sean and I discuss Life with Bonnie Season 1 Christmas episode and Life with Bonnie Season 2 Christmas episode. It's a wonderful job. You all know how much I love Bonnie Hunt and the things that she's done. If you don't, you should go back and listen to my episode with her. That may be my favorite episode in 500 or so. But anyway, happy holiday season to everybody. Let me know what you're doing. Let me know how your Thanksgiving was. You can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com, at tvguidance, at Kenneth W. Reed, REID, any of those places. Tell me what you're watching, just how you're doing. I like to check in on you guys and enjoy this episode. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this Christmas time special with the host of the 25 Days of Christmas Carol podcast, limited series special event, Mr. Sean Sullivan.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Sean Sullivan back on the show.
Kenny.
I think we've done more podcasts in lockdown than we had in the previous 6 years.
We were on a good run at the inception of the program, and then I don't know what happened. Oh, we went through those years where we stopped speaking to each other for
Nothing happened.
Crimes.
You were just busy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You had children, remember?
That's right. They learned to speak.
Yeah.
It was so much easier to do things when they couldn't communicate, and you could just like pick them up, put them down someplace.
Well, the other thing is, like, the anniversary of the show is in February, and it's usually super snowy and gross here. So it would be, and you live like an hour away.
Yeah, the couple of times I have come up in February, I remember specifically one. Yeah, I think it was trying to climb up the driveway because you park and then you walk up a little bit of a steep.
Yeah.
And in the time since, I've developed a little bit of arthritis in my hip, and I'm terrified of falling on ice and just being immobilized forever. So I try to avoid steep, icy stairs.
That's why I have them.
But thankfully, you started this COVID hoax, and we can do fun things on Zoom now.
Yeah, it's literally just so I could get people on the show who live in cities other than Boston, LA, or New York.
Right. Because, look, what else are we going to do?
Yeah, that's the only reason I started it. But you have two podcasts. So since lockdown, you've had me on Two Boys in a Balcony, I think twice. Did I do it twice?
Oh, twice. Yeah, we talked about, we did
Session 9.
Session 9, and we talked about
One Crazy Summer.
One Crazy Summer.
Yeah.
And we'll have you back, Kenny. We love having you on the program.
I like talking movies, and then we've recorded 2 episodes of your new podcast, which you're doing. What did you say?
The
limited series.
Jesus Christ, Ken.
A Sean Sullivan limited series podcast event.
I can't stress how lonely and bored I am.
So you're doing 15 episodes?
25.
25.
It's the 25 days of A Christmas Carol.
That makes sense. So you're doing about a half
December
hour
1st
to December 25th. It's like an advent calendar for your ears.
Every day.
Of different adaptations of A Christmas Carol. You're releasing one every day. You're not doing them all at once. It's literally one a day.
No, yeah, one a day. You can go. I don't know when you're going to be dropping this.
So I'm going to put this out at the very beginning of December. So
perfect.
It's just starting. So people.
Yeah. So it's on iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff.
I'll put links up here. And what do you call it? You call it 25 days of Christmas
25
Carol?
days of A Christmas Carol. It's quarantine has sapped any creative energies within me.
The best thing is everybody's bar is so low right now. You don't need it.
I started out, I did a couple of solo episodes out of the gate, and then we're just starting with the guests, and it's all people that have been on this show. You and Josh Gondelman and Tony V and Kelly McFarland. Joey List is going to come by, sit in his house. I don't want him coming by.
No one's coming by. They're disease riddled.
But I went through and I made. There's so many different versions of A Christmas Carol. I usually watch 5 or 6 of them each year anyway, so I have nothing going on.
How many of the ones of the 25 were totally new to you this year?
A lot, to be honest with you.
And they're all TV, or some are movies?
No, some are movies. So you and I, we recorded episodes on Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, and then we did an episode of. We'll leave that to be discovered because I feel like your fans, will appreciate that.
And I'll put those in when those come out.
Yeah, we're doing a Barbie and A Christmas Carol. That's new. The Henry Winkler's an American Christmas Carol.
Yeah, from 1980.
Yep, 1979. Rich Little's Christmas Carol, which has got to be one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
That's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
That HBO let him have an hour to do a one-man show, filmed version of A Christmas Carol, where each character is a different one of his impressions.
But he was enormous in the 80s. That's the thing. I don't think people really understand how huge.
I certainly don't.
No.
But I'm excited about that one. It's a lot. I mean, we're doing an episode of Gumby with Lamont Price.
Oh, nice.
Lamont loves Gumby. And there's an episode of Gumby where he dresses like Sherlock Holmes and he hunts down Scrooge.
Yep, that is true. Because he goes in and out of books. And so this is probably, I don't know if this is controversial in the Christmas Carol, I don't know what you'd call it, the Christmas Carol community.
The CCC.
The CCC. But to me, It's a Wonderful Life is an adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
I mean, it has the elements. I mean, I don't know if that's fair. it's not far off.
It's basically if A Christmas Carol was just Ghost of Christmas Present.
But Ghost of Christmas Present, Scrooge is still there. So the big difference between them is that they're both stories about self-reflection, and I would say George Bailey is not looking for redemption the way Scrooge is.
It's the opposite. Like he needs to be,
they're inverses of them.
They're both stories about the unintended consequences of your existence.
Sure. Okay.
And how your behavior.
I think you could also, Ken, not to interrupt, I think you could apply that to every story.
So this story is unique in that I guess you could say the plot is things are not as they seem.
Sure.
The one story. But at Christmas time, you have it's an angel in Wonderful Life. It's ghosts in Christmas Carol. And the difference being there's a long tradition in the UK of ghost stories at Christmas. So the UK does not really do Halloween. They do it a little more now, but that's a pretty American holiday. And so ghosts are traditionally a Christmas thing, a ghost story at Christmas. It is always associated with ghosts at Christmas time in the UK. So A Christmas Carol is not an anomaly there. It's just another in a series of ghost stories, essentially.
Sure.
But in America, we don't associate ghosts with Christmas, and other than
Christmas Carol. The ghost, it's a ghost of Christmas.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's one of the three. Right. Other than that, they can Casper. See you later.
Forget it. It's still an adaptation of Christmas Carol. So I guess the closest thing we have to a ghost at Christmas is an angel here.
Right.
Because a ghost and an angel, kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, in somewhat, an angel would have been alive, and so would have a ghost at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. See, to me, that they're the 1 and 2. They go back and forth between which story I like. It's a Wonderful Life. It does not, or has not yet, experienced this the remakes and the readaptations the way that A Christmas Carol has.
It's newer,
but it's newer. Yeah, I mean, time will tell. I'm sure that as soon as somebody gets the rights back, they're gonna make It's a Wonderful Life with Ryan Reynolds or something like that. So I think of It's a Wonderful Life as this one piece of art, as opposed to A Christmas Carol where it just happens to be whatever time of the day it is, which version I think of.
Right, it's an archetype or whatever. Although I will say, and as someone who's watched a lot of Christmas episodes, that It's a Wonderful Life structure is stolen for Christmas episodes many, many times, almost as many as A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, it would be an easier story to tell. It's certainly streamlined.
Yeah, it's a very American version of A Christmas Carol.
Right. It's very efficient. Let's trim the fat on this. Let's increase profits.
Make it religious, and also make it about how great you are.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the when we first when we put together this guidance counselor episode, we were talking about which of the three, because you gave me 3 choices.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do them all, and then we'll do one for you. This is not a Christmas Carol adaptation. I would have been real steamed there, Ken.
It's a Wonderful Life adaptation.
Right.
But it does take several things from A Christmas Carol that aren't present in It's a Wonderful Life.
I mean, I've seen a bunch of Christmas Carol adaptations in sitcoms, and I've seen It's a Wonderful Life, and the It's a Wonderful Lives are always more effective.
Yeah.
It's just an easier story to tell. You have a character, and you're used to the way they interact with all the other characters, and if you remove that character to see how all those lives have changed, it's just you can fit that into the time block way easier than here's 3 ghosts and we need to reset. This is you as a child, and this is you after you die. Yeah.
But they're adjacent, let's say.
Sure.
They're
yeah.
the same
No. They're depressive.
Yeah.
But optimistic and hopeful. Christmas stories.
Mournful ruminations on our own death and existence.
I think they're both. It's a Wonderful Life is probably less it's an angel, but it's not they're not religious stories of Christmas. They're both very secular, and yeah, I mean, I watched both of them. I'm going to watch It's a Wonderful Life, probably twice in the next 3 weeks. So
That's fair. And so this is Bonnie Hunt's 5th sitcom, but her 3rd sitcom that she wrote and starred in, that we're talking about here.
Okay.
It's called Life with Bonnie. So previous to this, she had a show called The Bonnie Hunt Show and a show called The Building in 1995, which was the first show ever written by and starring a woman.
Oh, really?
And it was in 1995.
Jesus Christ.
But was great. And that's the show that Letterman produced it. George Clooney was in it.
So look, this is going to be boring for your audience because I know they've heard you talk about Bonnie Hunt for, what do you think, 37 hours?
Yeah.
She, what gets her on Letterman's radar? What's her first big role is Rain Man, right? She's
Correct.
Rain Man.
Yep. So Bonnie was like the darling of Second City, rightfully so.
Right.
Like just so good there, and was sort of courted by SNL, who Lorne Michaels offered her a part, but at the time they only hired women as writers or performers. You couldn't be both.
Oh, see, I read that she turned down the part. She was offered the job and then turned it down because they wouldn't let her improvise.
It was they wouldn't let her write and perform. It was one
okay.
or the other. So
yeah,
because if you look, like Tina Fey was a writer for 5 years before they let her
then a
perform.
performer.
That was unusual. It could be one or the other, and she was like, "That's bullshit. I'm not doing it." So Bonnie was a cancer nurse. She still keeps her nursing license, and so doing Second City at night, cancer nurse during the day. Audition for movies they'd shoot in Chicago every now and then, gets Rain Man, and is great in that part in Rain Man. She's the waitress where the matches fall down. And they actually had her do some promotion for it. And, she got interviewed in the red carpet and that kind of stuff for Rain Man. And Letterman had a guest fall through and just by chance happened to see her being interviewed on the red carpet for Rain Man and thought she was really funny and was like, just fly her out here. We'll have her guest on the show.
Oh, that's great.
And she went on and most guests, and I know you know this, but when people are a guest on a talk show, it's rehearsed. Like they do a pre-interview. It's not just a conversation. It's like, we know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I know. It's publicists talking to producers.
Yeah.
When I interned at Conan, that was specifically my job, was to do all the research so that somebody could then go through a folder and pull.
Agree what we're going to talk about.
Right. They really love Greek yogurt. That'll be interesting.
But there are a few guests who are notoriously like no pre-interview. Mm-hmm. Like Chris Isaac was one of those. Bonnie Hunt is one of those. There are people that are like Chris Elliott. Like it's going to be fine with them. And so Letterman,
which I will say, just because the one semester that I interned at one of these shows, they do not like. The producers get very scared when they don't have a map.
Yeah, the producers, but the host usually likes it.
No, yeah, Conan O'Brien and Letterman can carry a conversation with anybody and make it entertaining.
Yeah, and so Christopher Walken's one that they would never. So Bonnie became one of those people, and Letterman had her on a bunch of times. She got on a sitcom called Grand, which is an amazing show. Is sort of one of the first dramedies. Only lasted one season. Actually, it lasted 2 seasons, but it was a mid-season replacement and then got canceled halfway through the first season. So it's
okay. So really, it just evens out.
Yeah, it's 2 seasons over 1 calendar year, which is unusual.
I gotcha.
For a TV show. But like Michael McKean was in that. Joel Murray is in it. Sarah Rue, great show. Then she was in a show called Davis Rules with Randy Quaid and Jonathan Winters.
What years are we talking now? Has she done like Beethoven and stuff like that yet?
No, Grand was like 89.
Okay.
And Davis Rules, I think, was 92, which was probably around the time of Beethoven and Jumanji.
Yeah, I think that would be that time.
That sort of era. Davis Rules, she only did because Jonathan Winters was on it. And Jonathan Winters is improv royalty, comedy royalty.
Yeah.
She became very good friends with him. And then Letterman produced her first show called The Building. And she wanted to do this sort of 50s style sitcom just about friends that live in this building together. and it's her and Don Lake and everyone that's in Life with Bonnie.
Okay.
Is in this show. Holly Wurtel, the guy who plays Marv, all those people. And it's a very funny show. When I had Bonnie on my show, she told the whole thing, but she walked in basically the first day with all the episodes written. And the studio was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I wrote the show." And they're like, "That's not how you do it. We have a whole writer's room." And she's like, "But I wrote the whole season. Like, it's my show. I wrote the whole season." And they were like, "No, you got to hire writers." She's like, "Well, there's nothing for them to do, though. Like, I wrote the show." And they're like, "We don't care." So she just interviewed a bunch of people that she thought were talented that either needed to get into the union or she wanted to give them a break and hired them in the writer's room. And she's like, "Look, the show's written. You don't have anything to do, but you'll get a credit. I'll get you in the like whatever." Cool. So
All right.
Then the network, what networks do is they sign people, not shows. So some people they sign, their shows get canceled, and the network goes, "We have to pay them all year, so we're going to put them in shows we didn't cancel so that we get our money's worth." So John Cryer and Valerie Bertinelli were in sitcoms that year that got canceled, and the network said, "Bonnie, you need to recast your show with John Cryer and Valerie Bertinelli." And Bonnie was like, "I'm sure, they're great." No. And they were like, "Yeah, that's not, you have to." And she goes, "No, I'm not firing these people. Like, if they did a bad job, sure, but they didn't. So you know what? I'm canceling my own show."
Oh.
And they were like, "What? No, what?"
And this is on ABC.
This is ABC.
Okay.
So a couple years later, they come to her and they're like, "We're really sorry. We fucked up. That you were right." And they give her this show called The Bonnie Hunt Show, which was a show where she played like a local news reporter. And it was a sitcom, kind of Murphy Brownish, kind of Mary Tyler Moore-ish. But all of the news segments were real segments she did on a local Chicago television station.
Oh, really?
Which was
I feel like that's the show that I might be the most familiar with.
Yeah, that was mid-90s.
That would have been my prime time watching years.
Yeah, and that was a funny show. It was, it was one season. And then after that got canceled. So then she went and did a bunch of other stuff. She wrote and directed the movie Return to Me, which is one of the best movies I've ever seen. Just did a ton of stuff.
Wait, is that the David Duchovny Heart movie?
Yes. Oh, you've seen it, right?
No.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. And
not David Duchovny, or is that John Cusack?
No, it's David Duchovny. It's David Duchovny, Minnie Driver. Carol O'Connor is in it. And actually, when I had Bonnie on my show, she tells the story about how she got that movie made, and it's so good. Like, it's just such a good. And so then she comes back to ABC in 2003 to do Life with Bonnie, and this show is a show about, she's a mother, she's got kids, her husband's a doctor, and she hosts a local magazine morning show in Chicago, basically. That's the premise of the show. All of the segments in the studio that are the show are improv.
Okay, so that there were no segments of the show on the ones that we watched. But there were definitely moments that were improvised.
Yeah, anytime they're in the studio, the TV studio, that's improv.
All right, that's what you mean. Okay. Because there was one point where her husband goes, it'll just be the three of us for Christmas, and then she calls him on it right away, and he breaks and then stumbles through a save, and I was like, well, this is insane that this is how this show is being presented.
But so funny. Yeah, and in the other episodes of that show, which I love, she has like Jonathan Winters comes on and plays a guest on her talk show, and they're just improv, and it's hilarious. Martin Mull, David Duchovny comes on, and he's this weatherman named Johnny Volcano, and it's like the funniest weird shit. It's just super weird. And then after the show got canceled, she did her own talk show, which was basically the show on this show, but as a real show. So I showed you the two Christmas episodes she did. The first one is not an It's a Wonderful Life play, but I felt like it was, I love it. And I felt like it was kind of important because a lot of stuff pays off well in the second one if you know the characters.
I think of the two, it was the funnier of the two. So what happened to the daughter?
She quit acting.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they just were like, okay, that's okay.
So Bonnie just wrote her out. Like she didn't want to do it anymore, and it was nothing
Oh.
nefarious. But yeah, she's a good kid, Bonnie.
Okay, that's what I was checking on because
she's
it,
okay.
it was very noticeable that. And then I got to ask about Freddie. Is it Freddie or Frankie?
Frankie, yeah.
Yeah, the neighbor.
Yeah.
See,
What's
what's up with Frankie?
So Bonnie wrote this character. So Bonnie's family in the show are like they're very well off. Like she's a
Yeah, she's a
TV
local
show.
celebrity. He's a doctor.
He's a doctor. They live in Chicago, and the neighbors are white trash. And
Okay.
they have this kid who's just abused and neglected.
Okay,
And he hangs
All
out at their house.
That's the impression that I got.
Yeah.
but I wasn't sure.
That is what she wanted. And it resonated with me so well because we all know those kids.
Yeah,
There were kids who basically lived at other kids' houses but they were never like Frankie doesn't know his life is garbage.
right.
But
no. He's not despaired. He's
No.
not like and he's not acting as if he needs protection either.
But he does, and they know.
Okay.
Like everyone knows, And it's there's a line in the second season episode where Frankie comes over on Christmas Day, and Bonnie goes to her husband. She goes, "Oh, he's wearing the pajamas we got him last year,"
Right.
and it's like that's such a perfect sad moment where, like, of course the neighbors are buying this kid pajamas, and he's still wearing them, and his mom's
Well, that was
not.
at one point he tells in the second episode he's sleeping. They're having a sleepover on Christmas Eve, and because he doesn't celebrate Christmas or whatever, and he just goes to her and he goes, "Oh, my mom said if I sleep over that I can just go to work with you in the morning."
Yeah, and it's always like that. Like there's episodes where like they're like, "Frankie, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, my uncle's sick again, and he's sleeping on the couch." Like, it's
Do they? Do the parents ever show up?
Nope, and it's never done in like a after school special or exploitative way. It's always
Okay.
just you get from what he says and the fact that he's there all the time, you get it, and that's all you need, and it's just so well done.
Oh.
And he's a sweet, funny little kid. Like you feel bad.
Yeah, no. Yeah. No, it was a definite choice, and I wasn't sure if it was just a Christmas episode choice or if this was
Every
they just did it
episode.
because the kid's in the opening credits.
Yep.
So he's clearly a part of the ensemble.
Yeah, it's every episode, and the kid who plays Bonnie's son is hilarious.
Yeah.
That kid, there's a Halloween episode actually where he dresses up as Conan O'Brien for Halloween.
Oh, that's funny.
It's very funny. But so the first season episode is like, there's almost no plot.
No, it's just it's hey, the roads are closed because of the snow. Come over to our house for dinner. Oh no, the roads are all everywhere. You're just gonna have to sleep over.
Which is, if you told someone that was the plot, they'd be like, that sounds super shitty.
But I mean, that's pretty standard, Christmas plotting. I mean, they invert it because usually it's somebody's stuck at a rest stop, they can't get home, or they're stuck at the airport, they can't get home for Christmas, and then the resolution is, oh, hey, there they are, they made it in time for dinner.
Right. Or like, Christmas is wherever we make it. This isn't the Christmas we planned, but it's
Right.
so much better in the spirit. This one is the opposite in that it is, hey, a bunch of people have no place to go, and everyone's happy to be at our house, and it's just
Right.
and,
And they mentioned they were going to go to Wisconsin
yep.
to visit the husband's parents, but he doesn't really want to go. He just wants to stay home with the family.
Yeah. Which we all can sympathize with.
And then she just slowly just starts inviting everybody that they work with to the house, which pretty good ensemble on this show, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The piano player is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
I sent you I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I sent you his website this afternoon because it's just the most adorable thing I've ever fucking seen.
He's so funny and likable in this, and there's some just hilarious lines in the scene where she invites everybody, because she's like, she first invites Holly, who's going through a divorce, and
Yeah.
With that exchange is very funny and very real, because she's like, wow, I wasn't asking you because I want to come over to your house. And she's like, no, that's fine. I didn't think you were asking me that. And she goes, I have other friends.
Right.
She's like, no, it's fine. Then she's just like, what time? And then she's like, you should ask him to come. His mother didn't invite him this year.
Oh, that's the Tony, the piano
Tony,
player.
yeah, which is such a funny thing to say. She's like, oh, he goes and sees his mother every year. She goes, no, she didn't invite him this year. He's like a 50-year-old man.
Right.
So
He seemed like one of those guys like one of those like perfect sitcom finds where you go like, this guy has absolutely no acting ability
yep.
at all, but they go out there, be yourself, memorize these words.
Yeah. And most of the scenes he's in are in the talk show where he doesn't even have to memorize any words, which is perfect. Like, and he gets a really funny joke in where he goes, hey, you should really invite Marv over. And she's like, Marv goes and visits, his mother every year. And he goes, nah, he just lies about that and says he does that. Last year he spent all day in the movie theater. And she goes, really? And he goes, yeah, I was with him. Which is just really, really funny. Like, it's just, they have such a good rapport, everybody.
Yeah.
On the show.
She's got, so that's the thing is because she is such a improviser. And, one of the clips you had, morning, like her on Good Morning America and her on,
Regis.
Regis. And she's just so fast and loose. And she talks about the difference between, because she's promoting Cheap by the Dozen with Steve Martin and how he's not that way. He is very, the difference between their styles is he's writes it all out and he hits all the beats and they're all pre-planned and he knows what he's going to do. And she just goes out there and wings it more or less.
Yeah.
So she just has this is the most natural delivery of anybody that's ever been on a sitcom.
Yeah. She just feels like a real person. And I talk about her a lot on the show and like, I try not to sound insane, but like, I can't believe I'm friends with her.
Yeah.
And like the fact that I've had her on the show and like, I've talked to her and that's just how she is. And like, when you're talking to her, you can be talking about something really serious because she does so much charity work. It's insane. And then she'll just break the tension with like a perfect joke, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I had her on, we were talking about saying no to things and how she famously turned down, I think it was $60,000 an episode of Designing Women. She just didn't like the scripts to replace Delta Burke and stayed in Chicago making $20,000 a year as a cancer nurse.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have a date up. She's like, no, it's fine. You say no to things. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't have to do some corporate gig where they're like, hey, make fun of the president's wife. It's really funny. And she goes, well, to be fair,
that gig still available?
It is still available. And then Buddy goes,
okay, we'll talk.
Well, to be fair, I mean, she's really sleeping around. Like, this is really funny. And I'm like, well, yeah, everybody knows it. It's just like, and then you go, but it's like, she has a very easy way of, even if you haven't known her forever, like you can interact with her that way. And
sure.
I think all the actors, you get that from the show.
Yes.
And it's funny to see a show that's sweet, but not cheesy.
Yeah, I can go with that. Yeah, it was very, very wholesome. And then, but it never felt corny. That's the big thing with, and I feel like that's the slam that gets thrown against these, especially, ABC sitcoms from around this time. You got like According to Jim. And, My Wife and Kids and all that kind of shit. This could easily have fallen prey to the traps of those. But I think it's just there's an inherent weirdness to it. I also think it's great. David Alan Grier, I would consider somebody who has the same kind of acting style as Bonnie Hunt. So, like he's just a guy that he's always very not naturalistic, but he responds, and you don't see a guy who's acting. You just see a guy who's actually responding.
Right.
So let's talk about David Alan Grier.
He's amazing.
It seems like was Dag done. Dag's the late 90s, right?
Yep.
So he's a guy where it always seems like everything that he's in, he's so much bigger than why he shouldn't be, the third or fourth character on this show.
Yeah. Well, he's good friends with Bonnie. So Bonnie
Okay.
cast him in Return to Me. That's where she met him. And he's great in that movie. He plays David Duchovny's friend. And Bonnie reuses the same people. And she basically created that role for him.
And so he liked working with her and he just signed up.
Yep.
Because he's a guy that he could have at this time gotten a sitcom on any network.
Yeah, he could
or
have had
a
his own
pilot at
show.
the very least.
Yeah, easily. But he just loved doing that show. Everyone who was on that show had fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he was like, yeah, I'll do this show. And he's great. Even though he's much bigger than everybody else. But it works.
I mean, I'll have to take your word for it because in the 2 episodes that I saw, he's not playing big.
Well, he plays drunk. in
Sure.
both. And he's like a louder, more animated character, because he plays.
He's more of a presence, and I think that's just that's the dangers of casting, a known commodity in a role like that.
Yeah.
Is when David Alan Grier is on screen, you're like, oh, that's David Alan Grier.
Yeah.
When Marv is on screen, I don't have any idea who Marv is.
Just a guy.
I like Marv.
Yeah.
He's just a guy. He's not David Alan Grier.
And my favorite thing there's 2 favorite. Well, I don't know what my favorite moment is in this first episode. Like the Christmas play the kids do on the show is really funny.
Yep.
And stuff like that can always go so wrong.
I mean, I'll tell you my favorite moment in that first episode is Tony, the piano player, keeps calling on the couch, and then he gets up and he for some reason he's packed an overnight bag. He's not, and brought it inside. He everybody was coming over for dinner. He knew he was sleeping over.
I'll bring my pajamas. He said.
Right. And he's just like, I'm gonna go put my pajamas on, and he runs out of the room. And that should be something where you roll your eyes and go, this is lame, but it works. I don't know how.
Yeah. And then they pay that off later where he can't sleep because the Christmas lights are on the tree.
Yeah, so he's trying to unplug the Christmas tree.
Unplug the Christmas tree, and the kids sneak down and see him in his pajamas under the tree and think it's Santa Claus. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Like, it doesn't seem like a Three's Company misunderstanding. Like, it just works.
Yeah.
I love that moment.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it really is. I don't. It's probably not. This is probably not the best way to get a taste of this show. Watching the 2 Christmas episodes, but as 2 Christmas episodes, everything made sense. It all connected.
Yeah. They're pretty representative. You don't get as much of the show stuff. That's the stuff it's missing with her improv with somebody, which is just
right. Yeah. So that I do. I'm going to check that out. Let me ask you this: season 2. Is Dag living with Bonnie and her husband?
He does later, yeah, because he's going through divorce and he's having a tough time.
Because there was one point where he was just in their house.
Yep.
And interacting with the kid.
They tease it a little bit in the first season 1 that he's got a little bit of a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's handled like the Frankie thing. It's not this is the huge problem of the week, we're going to solve it in 30 minutes thing. And it's also he's not Otis from Mandy Griffith.
Yeah, no, he's a real person and he has real problems.
Yeah.
And they just happen to be funny people.
Yeah, and it's great. And the moment at the end of the first season 1 that and you know me, I'm like, oh, that's so touching. But when he's like, I don't have any friends and whatever, and so she gives him a present, and it's a picture of
it's a picture of him holding her baby.
Holding her baby was born, and it's like everyone's like, oh, that's so nice. Like, but it works.
Right. It should be every cynical bone in our body should reject that completely. Yep. But it just there's something about I think ensembles in general, and one clearly as unified as this one. You can kind of tap into this is their Christmas.
Yeah, they're friends. Like they know each other.
Is it the first one no, the second one is the specific, that's the It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes. So
where she has to do a live show on Christmas.
Yep. So we'll move on to that one. So season 2, that season they introduced the station owner, who's played by Carl Reiner.
We were denied Reiner in this
Yeah,
one.
he's in a bunch of the episodes, but he only ever appears on a TV to talk to them. So if
That's
to wheel
funny.
in this TV, it's very, very funny. And those are improv with him on the screen.
Yeah.
And so in this one, so Bonnie suggests, hey, instead of doing a rerun, why don't we pre-tape a show for Christmas this year? And David Allen Greer presents that to Carl Reiner, and he says, I love that idea, but how about you just do a show on Christmas? So they all have to stay and do the show on Christmas. This is sort of the Bob Cratchit moment. This is what I was saying earlier, and that they take some pieces from a Christmas carol that aren't quite inherent to It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, that is why. So I watched this. I mean, the name of the episode is
It's a Wonderful Job.
It's a Wonderful Job. And you had pitched it to me as it's a Christmas Carol episode. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I kept waiting for, so when they did that, you're going to have to come in the next day. I was like, okay. And then, but I mean, just from the title, you know that it's going to be It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
But, yeah, seemingly that seems like a decision you got to make a couple of days in advance. Even local television should have union rules about working on a Christmas like that.
You'd think so, but it makes sense in the plot, I guess.
Yeah,
And everyone-
but less than 24 hours notice. You got to
Yeah.
come in on Christmas. I'm not going to be happy.
Everyone's pissed at her. Sort of, but not. She feels bad. She feels like it's her fault, even though it really isn't, and most people aren't really holding it against her.
Yeah.
Which is another very interesting, real kind of reaction that you don't often see in a sitcom.
Of just people who are angry but not directing their anger incorrectly.
If this was Friends, they'd all be like, Bonnie, you suck. This is your fault.
Right.
But
Yeah,
this
you
is-
ruined everything.
Yeah, they're like mad, but they know that it's not her fault. But she feels like it's her fault, and so she kind of is like, oh man, I wish I didn't do this show, then they wouldn't have to work on Christmas. Essentially, that's like the I wish I was
Right.
dead wish.
Yeah, that was oh, okay. Yeah, that all now checks. I also forget in It's a Wonderful Life that George Bailey is when he's
Gonna kill himself?
yeah, right, when he goes to kill himself, but when he wakes up in Pottersville, he's a actual physical being that can interact with the world.
Yeah, but he's not him. He was never born. He's just some thing.
Yeah, he's just some guy.
Yeah.
But that's why I kept waiting. Like they all, she was still Bonnie Hunt, or not, I don't know, whatever her name is, Bonnie.
Bonnie
And
Malloy.
some people knew her and some people didn't.
Yeah.
But she could still interact with all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense now. I'm piecing this all together. This is all business I should have done 8 hours ago when I watched
Quite
it.
all right.
But
You've been doing a lot. And so her angel is Dick Van Patten.
which I unfortunately meant was completely wasted on me.
He's her generation of TV. He was the father on Eight Is Enough. His sons,
I generally knew who it was, but when everybody was excited that Dick Van Patten was there, I was like, it's just a reference point I don't have.
Last year when I was doing this show in L.A., Dick Van Patten's son Nils was over the house, and the Airbnb I rented had chickens that escaped, and he went and caught the chickens.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Nils.
And the lady who owns the house, I was like, your chickens got out. She's like, no, your friend grabbed them. And I'm like, yeah, just one of the Van Pattens getting chickens for you. Like, it's just one of the weirdest. It's like
The great Van Pattens.
What kind of life is this? So yeah, he shows up and he's like, no, you never did the show. You never got married. You live in this shitty apartment. And basically everyone's miserable because Bonnie didn't do the show.
Right. Which is a
Little self-aggrandizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not inaccurate.
No, it seems like everyone's life is better for having Bonnie Hunt in it. So
Yeah.
if you remove Bonnie Hunt, it makes sense that their life would be worse. I don't know. I just don't know that I have the balls to fucking go out and say it about myself.
No, I probably wouldn't either. And then the funny thing is that the show still exists, but the host of the show
It's Phyllis Diller,
is Phyllis Diller.
but not Phyllis Diller. Phyllis some other.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was so bizarre.
It was actual Phyllis Diller playing another character named Phyllis, who's like a monster to everybody.
And as soon as they said Phyllis, obviously everyone goes, "Oh, I wonder Phyllis Diller." No, that'd be stupid to get Phyllis Diller.
And it is.
And then, son of a gun, here comes Phyllis Diller.
But that was one of the other great things that Bonnie did with this show is she got all of her sort of comedy heroes when she was a kid to be on this show. So
Yeah.
there's an amazing episode with the Smothers Brothers who
Oh, that's great.
are improving with her. They're there to fix some electrical thing. And the thing they keep playing is one of the brothers is like, she's like, well, when's it going to be fixed? He's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, who knows? He's like, my brother knows. And then she's like, well, can you ask him? He goes, yeah, but I wouldn't believe him. And she's like, what? He's like, he knows, but he's going to lie to you. Like, it's this whole weird, it's very funny. And like, they almost crack her up a few times. But so she would have people like Phyllis Diller and Jonathan Winters and, Carl Reiner and all these people.
Yeah.
Great. And then it ends. She's like, oh, I want to do the show. And then it's like a nice Christmas the next day. It's pretty.
Right. No, they all go to the show, and then seemingly they lock the actual cameras that they shoot on, and the entire crew of Life with Bonnie comes out and sings Old Lang Syne like the end of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Which is, again, something that should be super cheesy and not work. But I'm just like, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. I looked at it and I go, yeah, they probably earned it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
These are the only 2 episodes of the show I've seen. They seem both pretty good. I'll allow this.
Yeah, and she uses the same crew all the time. Like, it feels, it's a very warm, familial show, even only seeing 2 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to get union cameramen to put their cameras down to come out and sing Old Lang Syne with you. I mean, you'd have to create a real warm environment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's stories she told me about Return to Me that people have heard on the show, so I won't regale them, but where, like, she basically got union guys to do stuff that could have gotten kicked out of the union. And it's just like, they're like, no, we're doing it. Like, it's just amazing. But would you watch more episodes of this show?
I think I would. It's not so I've gotten into, I just haven't gone into and watched a show like this in a long, long time. I think I got just once sitcoms and the television that I would choose to watch is usually pretty heavily serialized, and these kind of things like this. So I wonder if I would even watch news radio today.
Yeah.
Like something like that, and that's my favorite sitcom ever. It's just I'm out of that viewing mode, so I would have to ramp myself back into it, I think.
It feels so. On your show, we talked about Famous Teddy Z was one of the other shows we watched.
Yes,
and you had mentioned that it felt very ahead of its time. This show feels very old fashioned in the same way, almost.
Yes,
it's 2000.
Yeah, it's definitely a throwback.
Yeah, it's 2004 and feels like maybe 1990, but in a good way.
Right, because like we said, specifically ABC, because I remember there must have been, I was watching Lost and stuff like that when at this time, and their sitcom lineup, it was the Tim Allen, Last Man Standing is a couple years later, but
George Lopez show, Reba,
My Wife and Kids, According to Jim. It's the same show, just with different. It's really, really like stuck in that 90s format of give
everybody loves Raymond.
Stand up.
Yeah.
Right. And this has that feel as well, but it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that stands out is if when they're in that TV studio, if the rule is they just improvise, that energy just feels different.
Yeah.
So when you watch it, you're not going like, I'm stuck watching the same fucking family sitcom as I usually would. I also think it's nice. It's seemingly mostly a workplace sitcom, which when was the last, news radio maybe would have been the last breakout office sitcom that's, 3 camera.
Yeah, I would say so. It manages to be a workplace sitcom and a family sitcom and do both well.
Right.
I sound so stupid, but I love this show. These are 2 of my favorite Christmas episodes. I watch them every year.
Yeah, no, they were really fun to watch, and Ken, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Quite welcome.
Bringing Bonnie Hunt into my life.
I will say the Frankie payoff in the season 2 episode. The season 2 episode, to your point, is a lot less fun, but it's pretty serious at points.
Oh, what was Frankie's in foster care, right?
Frankie's in foster care, which he...
Yeah.
But after seeing him in the first episode, I don't know about you, but when Dick Van Patten says that, I'm like, oh no.
I don't have enough. I didn't have enough of an understanding of Frankie, and I was also the whole time going, "Where is the daughter?"
Yeah. They don't talk about her.
No, we don't talk about her.
So thank you for indulging me. I apologize that it wasn't quite It's a Christmas Carol.
But hey, man,
but
we're on the TV Guidance Counselor. We're not on the 25 Days of a Christmas Carol.
So it kind of worked out a little better.
Yeah, no. Hey, look, we got to talk about all kinds of fun things.
It's true.
And we fulfilled our holiday seasonal obligation of speaking to each other for 3 straight hours.
Now we can give the tax write-off. So I'll put up links to the 25 days, and then I know people who like this show will listen to that, and we will speak maybe in 2021.
We'll see you in 2021.
There you go. That's Sean. I love Sean. He's a good friend, an old friend. I'm not going to sing that Old Friends, New Friends song from I think it's from the Muppets Christmas special, Muppet Family Christmas. I refuse to watch a Muppet Christmas Carol because it's post Henson, but Sean will cover it, and he'll probably cover other things that I wouldn't normally cover. So that's good. So again, listen to Sean's new limited series podcast, 25 Days of a Christmas Carol. It's essentially an oral advent calendar, and he's got a new episode every day. I'll put out links to that there. Be here next week. We get a brand new episode, as we do each and every week, and I'll be doing my year-end roundup at the end of December, and that'll be fun, and just plowing on through into 2021. So things are looking up, guys. It's going to be okay. I hope you're okay. Stay safe. Thank you guys so much for doing what you do and for listening to the show. And we'll see you again next time on a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.